They came when I dreamed it started with the dreams. Vivid. Too real. At first I thought they were just nightmares, spawned from stress or too many horror movies, but soon they began to bleed into my waking life. I moved into the old cottage 3 months ago, chasing solitude and peace. Tucked at the edge of a forgotten forest, the house was surrounded by silence. No neighbors, no noise, just me and the creaking bones of the building. The dreams started the first week. In the dream, I would lie in my bed, exactly as I had when I fell asleep. The air would thicken, becoming humid and foul. I'd hear the creak of the floorboards in the hallway. Then footsteps, slow, dragging footsteps. Something, or things, were walking toward my bedroom. I never saw them clearly at first, just dark shapes, blurred like smudges on the edge of my vision. But they were there, whispering, breathing, watching. Each night they came closer. At first I brushed it off. Just dreams. But then, the bruises started. One morning I woke up with scratches on my back. Long, shallow, and burning. I hadn't left the house. I didn't even own a cat. Still, I told myself it was just the old bed frame, or maybe I scratched myself in my sleep. But the dreams kept coming, and the visitors came closer. One night I dared to stay awake. I propped myself up with black coffee and energy drinks, determined to prove it was all in my head. I watched the hallway through the crack of my bedroom door. At 3:13 a.m., I heard the creak. My breath hitched, the hallway light flickered, even though I hadn't turned it on. A shadow moved just beyond the doorframe, slow, deliberate. It stopped in front of my room. Then, nothing. No sound, no motion. And then something scratched at the door, just once. I flung the door open, flashlight in hand. Nothing. No one was there. But the floorboards bore fresh, wet footprints. Bare, elongated. As if someone with too many toes had been standing there. I didn't sleep at all that night. By week 4, the dreams were no longer confined to the night. I'd catch glimpses of them during the day, reflections in the window, shapes in the corners of the room that disappeared when I looked directly at them. I tried everything. Salt across the doorways, a ring of candles, even reached out to a local priest. He refused to enter the house. "This place is wrong," he said, standing at the threshold. "Whatever's here, it's not human." I left that night, checked into a motel 2 towns over, desperate for a good night's sleep. But they followed me. That night the dream was worse. I stood in a field, black sky above, no stars, no moon. A pale figure stood at the horizon, tall, impossibly thin. Its face was blank, just skin, no eyes, no mouth, just smooth flesh stretched too tight. It raised its arm and pointed at me. Then the ground cracked open beneath me, and dozens of hands reached out, thin, bony, clawed, pulling me into the darkness. They screamed without mouths, a deafening, mind-shattering wail. I woke up in the motel bathtub, soaked, bleeding from my nose. My fingernails were cracked, as if I'd been clawing at something solid. I went home the next day. I couldn't run. Wherever I went, they followed. They lived in my dreams. And now they were beginning to live in me. I stopped sleeping. Tried staying awake for days. On the 5th day, I collapsed in the hallway. That's when I saw them clearly for the first time. I dreamed I was back in the cottage. But it was different. Decayed, older, almost fossilized. The walls were covered in black moss. The windows were boarded from the inside. They stood in a circle around my bed. There were 6 of them, pale, faceless. Their skin looked wet, pulsing faintly with each breath. One had arms too long for its body, the hands dragging on the floor. Another had no legs, floating slightly above the ground. All of them watched me with heads tilted slightly, like curious dogs. One of them stepped forward and opened its chest. Not its mouth. Its chest, a crack split open from collarbone to stomach, revealing rows of tiny blinking eyes and a dark red mouth full of needle-thin teeth. "Let us in," it whispered. I woke up screaming. The house was cold, colder than it should have been. Every mirror in the place had cracked. I saw movement in the reflection of my TV, just for a second. A pale shape crawling behind me. I turned around. Nothing. I tried to leave. The car wouldn't start. The phone had no signal. Even when I walked down the road, the forest seemed endless. Every turn led me back to the cottage. They had me. I was their dream now. That night I gave in. I laid down in the bed and closed my eyes. "Come," I whispered. "I'm ready." They came, not in rage, not in violence, but in worship, like I was a vessel. They circled the bed, their heads tilting in unison. The one with the chest mouth leaned in and touched my forehead. I felt a surge of ice in my veins. I was no longer asleep, no longer awake, just between. And I understood. They had been summoned, years ago, by someone who lived in the house before me. Someone who called to the darkness in desperation, and the darkness answered. But it always demands a host, a doorway. And now, I was that doorway. Since then, I don't dream the way you do. I dream for them, and every time I close my eyes, I feel them walking, through me, into the world. You may have seen them too. The flicker in your peripheral vision, the shape at the foot of your bed just before you wake up, the soft creak of floorboards in the middle of the night. They came when I dreamed, and now they dream through you. The end.